It's 9th November 2024 and we are climbing Nikko-Shiranezan in Nikko National Park. It is one of the 100 famous mountains designated by writer and mountaineer Fukada Kyuya and is located at the boundary between Nikko City in Tochigi Prefecture and Katashina village in Gunma Prefecture. Our adventure starts from the Marunuma Kogen Ski Resort's car park. We drove out all the way from Higashikawaguchi Station in Saitama Prefecture and camped out nearby from here the previous night. Shigeru, what's the name of the mountain you're climbing today?
Nikko-Shirane.
Nikko-Shirane, okay. Ken, how was your first camping experience? You enjoyed it?
Super cold, and it was a little colder than I expected.
Did you sleep well?
But I did.
Slept well, Shigeru?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm so excited. Yeah, it's cold. First time in the cold weather.
Yeah. Okay. That's a changing room. There's a nice changing room over here. Yeah, with a washlet. That was nice. I'll be tackling this peak with 3 hiking buddies of mine. Shigeru, Ken, and Suga-san. From the car park, we start heading to the cable car station, which is less than 5 minutes away. After fumbling around a bit, we found the entrance to the cable car station, and it sure was nice to get out of the cold. A return ticket is going to cost you 2,500 yen, and payments can be made either by using cash or one of the other popular methods accepted by most retail places in Japan. The cable car departs from a separate building next door. If you did purchase a return ticket, remember to keep your ticket for the trip back down. Each car can carry a maximum of 8 people at a time and climbs a total of 600 meters from an elevation of 1,400 meters at the base station to 2,000 meters at the summit station. The ride is 2.5 kilometers long and takes roughly 15 minutes one way. The 9th of November was the second last day where hiking was permitted in 2024, and we lucked out when it came to the weather on this day. The summit station has a viewing platform called the Sky Terrace, which apparently has a footbath, but it's only available during the warmer months between June and October. It was way too cold for that on this day. There were very few clouds, and we took the time to take in the view and do some last-minute checks before starting the hike. And this is what we'll be tackling today. At 2,578 meters, Nikko-Shiranezan is the highest mountain in northeastern Japan. In front of the cable car station, there's a cafe where you can get light meals. We did a quick toilet stop here before continuing on our journey. We got distracted by some newly formed frost crystals. Nothing special in particular, but you rarely come across these in central Tokyo. Come on, guys. Another feature of the summit station is a rock garden. We weren't paying any attention, but later found out that rare alpine plants like Glaucidium palmatum and Dicentra peregrina can be found here. This is the entrance, or tori, to Futarasan Shrine, which was originally established in 1429 at the summit of Nikko-Shiranezan. However, over the years, the shrine had deteriorated and collapsed, so in 2003 it was re-erected at its current location at the summit station. At the start of the hiking trail, there's a gate that's used to keep deer out. I personally have noticed that trails with free-roaming deer tend to have leeches crawling around, so please make sure to close the gate once you're in. There are multiple routes available at the head of the trail, each of which is clearly numbered in maps like this one. Make sure you've picked out a path to avoid walking in circles. At this point, it's around 8:30 a.m. Since entering the trailhead, there's been a thin layer of snow amongst the cedar trees, and we've been walking on a very wide, forgiving path covered in a combination of soft leaves and tiny pebbles. One of the things we noticed is that there would be tiny pools of water scattered along the trail, which were difficult to pick out due to the frost and snow. Make sure you stay on the path to avoid falling into one. Around 8:40 a.m., Shigeru and Suga-san decide to whip out their trekking poles because we noticed the incline is starting to increase, and we are coming across more stairs as the path gradually becomes narrower. Ken, on the other hand, opts to stick with a single pole setup from start to finish.
CU この辺は多分モンベルをなんか管理してるんちゃいます？
かもね。
だってこんな綺麗だったらそう。
Popular. Gotta be popular around.
Just before 9 a.m., we decided to take our first break. The paths are still fairly easy on our feet, but the slopes are starting to get steeper now. This is the Dainichi-Nyora Junction. The Sanskrit term for Dainichi-Nyora is Vairocana, who is a major Buddha from Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism. This is the embodiment of the Buddhist concept of wisdom and purity. The sign in this picture explains what Vairocana represents.
ヨーロッパの人が国鉄だから。
Here you can see a stark contrast between two sides of a hill. The side that is not exposed to the sun is covered in snow, and your body will feel the temperature difference when you walk from one side to another. We got a bit excited when we glanced at what we thought was our destination, but this was actually a false peak. The actual peak is located a bit further back of this ledge. After a short break at around 9:40 a.m., we carried on with the hike. From this point onwards, we noticed a gradual reduction in the vegetation around us and a significant increase in the trail's gradient.
次の分岐点過ぎたら1時間40分ぶっ通し。馬さんあれですね、もう地面がこの間の日本山の広いですよ。さっきのところから約40分。ああいいですね。カナダで行ったからいいです。歩きました。
Here, we are fast approaching the tree line, which is the edge of a habitat where trees are capable of growing. The amount of snow covering the trail increases, but we still find it easy to walk because the ground is soft and hasn't turned into ice yet.
あ、まだ現在ここだから。だから、白根。そう、2570。
Due to the snow, the trail becomes less and less visible as we progress. So the guide ropes you see here play an important role in ensuring that you stay on course. The weather was good enough that we got a glimpse of our old friend Mount Fuji. At 3,776 meters, it is Japan's tallest mountain and stands out significantly since there are no surrounding mountains similar in height in its vicinity.
天城になりましたよ。だからって行かない方がいいって言ったのに。十分きれい。
After exceeding a certain altitude, the guide ropes disappear, and you now have to figure out a path based primarily on the terrain and the routes taken by others ahead of you. We noticed the wind speeds had picked up significantly Just as we were about to start our final ascent to the peak, we took a quick break to make sure all our loose items were stowed away inside our bags.
I need this to go up there.
もうちょっと
イエーイ。
見えた
見えた見えた、棒が見えた。
よかった。
頂上見えた。
まあ最初の頂上よね。
Once the steep portion of the climb has ended, the first thing you will notice is a caldera, hinting that Nikko-Shiranezan is a volcano. In fact, it is being constantly monitored for disaster prevention, but magmatic eruptions have not occurred since 2,400 years ago.
カツカツじゃないでしょこれ。
隣の草津白根山は
At the top of this hill, there is a wooden plank. Lots of people are going to mistake this plank for the peak of Shiranezan, but it actually indicates where Oku-Shirane Shrine is located.
Is that the second peak over there? Shigeru?
Hi?
Is that the second peak on the other side?
Yeah, over there.
Just to be clear, I use the term second peak, but that is the actual peak of Shiranezan. Right here, we have just arrived at Oku-Shirane Shrine.
Yeah.
If you're an avid hiker in Japan, you'll come across a lot of these tiny shrines on mountaintops, reflecting deep spiritual connection between nature and worship in Japanese culture.
ここまで来れたんで。
そんなことはないです。
いつも
皆さんご協力してなんで。今回で多分私が日本名山32または33山目ですかね。
すごいな。
Actually, it's a first time.
Coming up here?
First time to come here.
To come here, it's your first time.
Yeah.
Okay. Shigeru, this is your second time up here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel?
Awesome.
Awesome. Great weather. Last day to climb. Ken, your first camping experience.
Yes, it is.
Was camping?
It's great. It's the first night.
Cold.
It's cold, but I was happy to see this beautiful sky, night sky, with, many stars.
Yeah, we saw a lot of stars. Yeah,
so
yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
I was so emotional, and
So hopefully the weather today is good as well. I'll try to take
Yes.
some pictures of the stars. 南大山見える？
そう。
そうすると南海道の奥だからもう
あ、あれ南大山。南大山登ったことあるよ。
Now, we are heading to the actual peak of the mountain. In order to do that, you first need to descend down a gorge and climb out of it on the opposite side, which is what we are doing right here. I checked out some videos of other people climbing Shiranezan in summer and noticed that the trails are clearly visible. However, that's not the case during this time of the year though. You can clearly see that the snow at this altitude has most of the path covered up. So just as before, we are relying on a lot of guesswork and observing other people to get to our destination. Once you are done with the climb out of the gorge, you'll be greeted by a magnificent view of Nantai-san, which is surrounded by Lake Chuzen. Nantai-san is another one of Japan's 100 famous mountains and I had the pleasure of climbing it with a friend a few years back. It is a significantly more difficult hike than the one we're doing right now. This is Gunma, which is a lake in an eroded depression made up of older volcanic rocks from the Neogene period. It is located at an altitude of 2,175 meters above sea level with a maximum depth of 5 meters and covers an area of 50,000 square meters.
Group photo.
So we're going right now. Finally, after hiking for roughly 3 hours at a leisurely pace, at around 11:30 a.m., we reached the peak of Shiranezan, which officially stands at 2,578 meters tall. The temperature at the peak at this time was around 0 degrees Celsius. The route getting up here was around 3 kilometers long, and since the base station is at an altitude of 2,000 meters, this means we covered an elevation of 578 meters to get here. Even though there weren't many people on the trail heading up here, the area surrounding the peak was fairly crowded. I'd assume there'd be a long queue in the more popular hiking months around summertime. Nikko-Shirane is a stratovolcano, which means that it is made up of numerous alternating layers of hardened lava and tephra. Over 5,000 years ago, there were several large-scale eruptions, and it is believed that there are more than 4 eruptions that left significant amounts of sediment in the vicinity. The mountain is located in Nikko National Park and is the highest mountain in northeastern Japan. As mentioned in the start of this video, Shiranezan is located right on the boundary between Gunma and Tochigi. It is the highest point in both prefectures. The peak is often hidden by clouds throughout the year, so we are extremely lucky to have a clear day like this. It was time for lunch, and we decided that the peak was a little too crowded for us to enjoy a meal together. After scanning the surrounding area, we decided to cross over to the opposite side, which meant that we had to climb down and out of another gorge. And just as before, we had issues figuring out the exact trail because of all the snow that had accumulated. This route here. This is the peak of the mountain over here, and we went down all the way of this ledge before noticing a faint hint of a trail, which brought us to our current location. Some people who seemed a bit lost walked right behind us to get here too. This route came here. After walking around the area a bit, we picked out this rock as the place to have lunch. Even though we were here for some time by now, the scenery was so overwhelmingly breathtaking. I felt very fortunate to have a set of friends that enabled me to have this unique experience. I wish everyone could get the opportunity to visit this place and actually take in the magnificent views that I had the pleasure of witnessing firsthand myself.
Ken, すごいな。
あ
めっちゃ美味しそう。
あら
自分で作ったこれ。
そうそうそうそう。普通のカレーだよ、日本の。
普通のカレーと言ってすごいな。菅さんお湯を持ってきました。さすがラーメンです。
私これ。
伝統的な
スープ。
Japanese traditional lunch.
At 12:30, we packed up our things and Suga-san picked out an exit route from the mountain for us. We wanted to take a different way back from the one that brought us here, so we selected a path that would take us past Mount Zazen on the way down. I wish I could say we were enjoying the wonderful view in this clip, but actually here we are once again, trying to figure out where the path that would take us to our destination is after it was covered in snow. This is Midagaike, a crater lake located at an altitude of around 2,254 meters, covering an area of roughly 6,000 square meters. Its serene and mysterious atmosphere makes it a popular spot among climbers and nature lovers.
Way up there.
We cautiously tracked down the mountain face, thinking that the snow-covered surface would eventually reveal an easily walkable trail. But that didn't turn out to be the case.
Here, slippery.
Stand there, stand there, stand there. I want to take a picture of it. Oh, this would be a good picture. Be careful and go down without shooting any video.
We brought crampons merely as a precautionary measure, but never really expected to use them on this trip. However, as the descent became more and more slippery, we decided to collectively put on the additional gear to mitigate any unwanted falls.
Check out the crampons and Shigeru. Big crampons. Going down all the way. All the way down.
I managed to get down the icy portion of the hill without any issues, but ended up falling down and busting my knee a bit when a vine growing on the ground got hold of one of the spikes on my shoes. It made me realize that knowing when to take off your crampons is just as important as knowing when to put them on. Now, we are walking at the base of two mountains, Nikko-Shiranezan and Mount Zazen, as we are starting to head towards the summit station. The ground is still covered in snow, but it's no longer icy or slippery. The snow would occasionally disappear, just for it to show up again further down the trail. At this portion of the hike, we are back to walking on a surface that was covered in a lot of mulch, and it was a welcome relief to our knees that were getting worn down as the day progressed. At around 2:15, we took our first break since starting our journey back down the mountain. The temperature at this altitude had not changed that much, but we took off some layers of clothes as our bodies had been acclimatized to the temperature at the peak. Now we are coming across the signs that were first visible at the start of the hike earlier this morning, and we realize that we are fast approaching the end of our adventure today. The various routes offer different options to visit, so even if you're not interested in climbing Shiranezan, you might want to check out Mount Zazen or one of the surrounding lakes in the area instead. We had a quick discussion about visiting the area where the Rokujizo, or 6 City-Garba statues, are located. This refers to the manifestation of a Buddhist deity known for saving beings from suffering in the 6 realms of existence. However, we were already suffering ourselves from aching muscles, and we wanted to jump into a nearby hot spring as soon as possible. So the decision was made to continue down the path to exit the trail instead. And at 3:15, we crossed the gate that led us to the start of the hiking trail earlier this morning. We walked at a slow pace, covering a distance of 6.5 kilometers in roughly 7 hours and 12 minutes, which includes breaks as well. We achieved an elevation of 717 meters from the base station to the peak of Shiranezan. It was a good feeling to look back and reflect at the mountain we had conquered together. I would like to express my deep gratitude to Ken, Shigeru, and especially Suga-san, who drove us and our equipment all the way here from Tokyo in his van, and for planning out the route for today's hike as well. I would also like to express my thanks to you for watching this video all the way till the end.